Hey guys, Kevin here with Leap Year Barbecue, and I kind of wanted to do a few barbecue beginner basic videos because I know when I was looking for videos about how to cook with an offset smoker and how to cook in general, I went straight to YouTube, and there's some things I wanted to see and some real stuff I wanted to know that I saw some of, but I want to kind of give you the real nitty gritty on some of these. Um, so on this one, I'm going to show you the 3 best ways to start a fire for the coal bed in your firebox. You'll go on YouTube, you'll see, I mean, I don't even know how many, a dozen different ways to start your coal bed, get your fire going. You'll see torches and different, paper and different things. And I'm gonna show you the 3 that have kind of just worked for me over and over. See, and I'll show you kind of the one that I've used a lot lately. So let's get started. Okay, so the number one way you're gonna see a million times on YouTube is to get a charcoal chimney, put some charcoal in it, light up the coals, pour them into the firebox, and get your wood lit. It's very simple. It's effective. It definitely works. It's probably the most consistent one because you're using charcoal, you're using the chimney. You've probably used these before if you have a charcoal grill or you've seen them before. So I'm going to kind of show you basically how to light that up, especially for some of the people who may be new to this. But it's very simple. Get you some charcoal. It does not really matter what charcoal you get. I got the B&B charcoal. This has kind of worked for me pretty consistently, so I've just kept using this. But briquettes work. I've used briquettes. I use whatever's on sale at Home Depot at the time. That's perfectly fine. There we go. Got a couple of those. So the only thing is, most of them are kind of roughly this size in this bag, but some of them do get a little bit bigger. So just kind of make sure it gets, some of these holes get packed in if a big piece gets in the way. There we go. See. And I'll link this charcoal on in the description. But it's, again, you can use any charcoal, and I'm pretty sure you can buy this at Academy, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, pretty much anywhere like that. But this has just consistently worked for me, and I've tried every charcoal out there. So you'll get that. You'll take a couple of fire starters. You can use paper. These are Fogo tumbleweeds. I'm not attached to this brand or anything. I just kind of happen to have this. It's what was at the store. There's a bunch of different ones you can use. But again, you can use paper. You could use, the cubes, things like that. So whatever works for you. And see, this happens when you get a bunch of the small pieces. So I have, that's why I keep something down there. Bam. But I'm gonna actually light it in here. I think it's a little safer, a little easier. We put these down. All right. Let that rest there for just a second. Get the tumbleweeds lit up. And bam, the tumbleweeds are lit. Throw this on top. And wait for your coals to catch on fire. Should take maybe between 30 and 45 minutes to really get them completely lit and ashed over to where you can pour it into here. It doesn't take long. This is probably the quickest method, to be honest. And again, I like it. I'll kind of talk about it a little more once these ash over, the things I do and don't like about it. But it's very simple. This is the simplest way to do it. It's consistent. If you're just starting in barbecue, this is probably the way I'd recommend doing it, because you're going to have a lot of other learning curves, like how to, maintain your fire and a lot of other things. So I would keep certain things as consistent as possible, and this kind of gets you there. Just wanted to show you here too. This is after only about 10 or a little bit more time, and we're already, getting pretty close to where it's pretty much ashed over top to bottom. So again, this is easily the quickest way to get a coal bed going. Okay guys, so we're about a little under 30 minutes into this, and you can see it's pretty rip-roaring hot here, so we'll pour it into the firebox in just a second. But a couple of things I want to point out actually. You'll notice, especially for the beginners who haven't done this before, the charcoal sunk in a little bit. It was filled up to the top a little higher even. It's sunk in a little bit. That's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just your smaller pieces ashing over into coals and ash a little earlier, and it'll sink down. That's fine. The other thing, and this is something I learned through experience, go ahead and close this side door. If you have a cowboy firebox, go ahead and close this side door, because a little bit's going to fall out, and you may have a metal catch over here or something to catch it with. But, just be safe rather than sorry. If you don't have this cowboy firebox, I would just start from the back as I'm pouring and come this way. You can always spread it out later, but you don't want to lose too much. So let's go ahead and get these poured out. So very simply, we're just going to grab and pour these in. Okay. We can put this down. Again, please do that safely. You can see I'm wearing very kind of rigid, heat-resistant gloves. Make sure to do that. Don't ever touch that or anything like that without. And I can even actually go in here and kind of spread this with my hands a little bit, but I wouldn't even do that with these gloves. I would go ahead and just grab you a poker or a shovel and kind of move those around. And you'll notice, again, I started kind of towards the back here. And we'll just spread these out. Kind of how we feel like we like them. You can keep letting this burn a little bit if you want to, but now is a great time to go ahead and start getting this smoker up to temp. You can go ahead and get the wood on here. You can go ahead and get your cook chamber closed up and kind of start going from there. So this has been probably the most consistent way to do it. Again, as I said, this is the easiest way to always get a surefire coal bed. Something I don't tend to like about it is you tend to get kind of inconsistent, sizes here in your pieces. Whereas if you kind of do the next two that I'm going to show you, you get a little bit more consistency. But again, if you're new to this, or you just, don't want the headache, because you're going to have the headache of running the fire and cooking, and maybe you're having a party and you just don't want to worry about it, charcoal is the best way to go. The only other thing I don't like about it is that, of course, you have to buy accessories for it. You got to get the chimney, you got to get the coal from the store. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, guys, this is the second way to get a good fire going. I've used this one a lot, actually. And I like it. It gives you a pretty good, consistent coal bed. You're going to get a ton of coals. And it's pretty easy to do with just the wood you have. If you're using, if you're like me and you buy them in face cords, I cook a lot though. So if you're not buying them in bulk, maybe this isn't as good a method. But it's pretty easy. I already have some cubes and some tumbleweeds in here. We'll just light those up. I'd use a good amount of fuel for this, just to make sure it gets going on, because we're lighting entire splits here. There we go. And I will sort of let you guys watch this start to burn for just a few minutes. And when you're doing this, I bought this at Walmart for, I don't even remember, this is cheap, but, just buy you one of these. Don't use your good fire pit if you have one. I'll link some kind of basic ones. These are fine. I leave it outside, in worst case, if it gets ruined, I didn't spend too much money on it. That's pretty much all I use it for. I have a fire pit for when I do outdoor just fire pits. You know, so don't go too crazy on these, but you know, it's nice to have. It's again, it's a good tool, and you can use the splits you already have if you're buying them that way. And as you can see, a couple of cubes got us lit up pretty quick here. And I'm using the same Fogo tumbleweeds, but when I do these kind of bigger things like that, I like to use the Vevor cubes. I think they have a great run time. I didn't have very many of them, so I only put 2 in there, but a lot of times I'll use 3 or 4. But as you can see, with just 2 and a couple tumbleweeds, we're already starting to get lit up pretty good here. So I'm gonna let this run for just a moment and let you kind of see the fire get started, and then I'll kind of, you know, start up the recording intermittently so you can kind of see how it burns down. Okay guys, so we're about 20 to 25 minutes into this, and as you can see, we still have full-size splits sitting in here on fire. We have a great ripping fire, but we still don't have coals yet. And this method is going to take you a little bit longer than pretty much any other method. I've had this take upwards of an hour and a half to get good coals. Now, you get good, consistent coals, but it's going to take you a little bit longer. You know, one obvious reason is you're using full-size splits. I mean, these are full-size, full-on splits. They're just going to take longer to burn down. You have to just be patient. But one thing I wanted to say that I didn't is if you're doing this on grass, make sure you run a hose on your grass and wet this ground. You don't want any fires. I'm doing this in the morning. You know, the grass is a little moist already, but I always go ahead and just kind of spray the area around it just to be safe. If you have a concrete pad, you can do this on. It's a little different, but make sure you're doing this as safely as possible. All right, we're gonna let this burn down, and I'll kind of check in maybe one more time to show you guys where we're at, and then show you kind of the final result. Okay guys, it's been about an hour and 20 minutes, and these have finally burned down enough that we can use them as coals. You'll see a few bigger pieces over here that haven't quite burned down yet. That's fine. Just push them to the side, and then you have, you know, all these coals you can use. This is more than enough to fill up a small backyard smoker's firebox. This is probably, you know, way more than you would actually need, but you can hopefully kind of see on camera, these are very consistently sized. They're all very hot. I'm standing right here, and I can barely stand here. It's so hot right now. This is a great ripping coal bed. So here's what you would want to do. And I'm not going to put these in the firebox right now. I'm just going to kind of show you how you would do it. You would just grab you a shovelful. Move that over here. Grab you a shovelful, and then just start transporting it into the firebox. Now, the obvious downside to this is you now have to transport it from here to there safely. So as I said before, how you can put water around this to kind of keep you safe while lighting this. You could put a trail of water there, but you want to be very, very, very careful while you're doing this. You do not want to have coals everywhere. And I'm telling you this from experience. I've had coals everywhere. You do not want to have coals go everywhere. This is a great method, but if you're not comfortable transporting coals like that, or you just feel like it's just a little too dangerous, don't do it. This is my second favorite method, but if you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel comfortable really playing with a big fire like this just yet, just don't. Practice first before you start doing that. But again, this is a great way to get coals. I mean, you have this entire pile right here of beautiful coals. Again, more than enough for a firebox. So we'll kind of talk about my favorite method, the last method, in just a few minutes. But I definitely wanted to show you this because this is a fantastic way to get a good coal bed using wood you probably already have. All right. Okay, guys, and this is the third and final method. So we're basically just going to start a fire in the firebox. I've been using this one for a little while. The only thing is you have to already have enough split wood from your bigger splits into your smaller splits if you're using one of these smaller offset smokers. So I've kind of given you the angle of looking into the firebox. But basically you're just going to start, you know, a little log cabin fire. And notice I already put the 2 cubes in there. I'll just build around it. Bam. You're going to use a little more wood than you think for these smaller offsets. So don't be afraid to, pile the wood in there. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to do anything bad. It's good. I'll kind of show you what I do. All right. And we'll just do 2 more at the very top. Okay. And then from there, we just easy peasy. We get in there with the lighter. And there they go. So I'm going to let this sit for just a minute to kind of show you guys. But usually on these small offset smokers, 2 cubes is fine. I'll sometimes use 3, just depending, on my mood, to be honest. But it's usually fine this way. And I'll kind of talk to you once the fire burns down into coals what I like about this method. But this is the method I've mostly been using for the last couple months pretty consistently. It's kind of my favorite for a couple of reasons, and I'll kind of share those with you in just a little bit. But as you can see already, the fire is starting to light up with just those couple cubes, and probably in, I'd say, 40 to 50 minutes, we'll have a good coal bed that we can just start cooking with. All right. We'll check in just a few. Something I forgot to mention when you're doing the coals in the firebox, when you're burning them in there, go ahead and open everything up for a little bit until these kind of burn down. This will get rip-roaring hot. This entire cook chamber will get rip-roaring hot. I've had it up well into the 500 degrees. And then you have to get it to come back down, and it's kind of a pain. So leave it open for a little while. These are kind of burned down, and I'm going to show you that in just probably another few minutes once they're completely burned down. Once they're kind of burned down a little more, you can start to kind of close everything up and start to get your chamber heated up a little bit and use these as actual coals. But in order to save yourself some time and headache, keep everything open for a little while. Okay, so as you can see with our firebox method here, it is pretty much completely burned down. We have one log kind of holding on here, but we can break that up. Bam. A firebox already full with coals, and that's really the one big reason that this is my favorite method. It's already in there. It's already burned down. You can go ahead and start getting your valley set to start putting your wood in there, and you can get going. And you could have been heating up some wood. I didn't heat up any wood because I am, obviously not cooking anything right now, but you could have heated up some wood to use. And so this just is my favorite method. It, to me, is the one that kind of includes everything. The big downside, of course, is that you have to use wood you already have. So if you're buying in the box from Academy or wherever, there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that many times. But you may not want to waste, that wood because it does cost a little bit more money. So I would say in that case, use charcoal. And again, use charcoal if you're new at this too, because you're going to get the easiest, most consistent, burn down out of that. So that's pretty much it. That's my 3 top ways to do it. Okay, so you've seen the top 3 methods for me. There are other ones. You can put charcoal in here and light it with a torch. You can put the wood in there stacked, same how I did log cabin style. Start that with a torch. There's other methods. I don't like those. I think they're, to be honest, I've used them. I've used pretty much every method, really. I think they're inconsistent. I think they just don't work as well, and on top of everything, it can just be a little dangerous. So I'm not going to be one to tell you to use those. I would say use one of these 3 methods, and you will always get a good fire. You will always get a good coal bed, and they're very reliable. What I would say is use the charcoal if you're brand new and you're still starting this, or you just always want to get a good, consistent coal bed. I would use that second method in the fire pit. A lot of times I use that when I'm just replenishing coals. So if I'm doing a 12-hour brisket cook, at some point I'm going to replenish those coals, probably about halfway through. And because I can't use the firebox to start a fire, or a big fire because I'm cooking, I'll use the fire pit and light up, 6 or 7 logs in there, well, or just a few depending on how big my logs are, and then I'll transport them into here and clear up my firebox and kind of start with a fresh bit of coals. And then, of course, as I've said a couple of times, my favorite method is to just start the fire in the firebox using the wood you have. Again, the only downside to that is if you have a limited amount of wood, you may not want to do that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you progress and as you work, more towards cooking more, and if you really enjoy this, I would say work towards this method and kind of perfect it. And again, I'll link everything I use in the description. What I use is not the end all be all. It's just kind of the stuff I've noticed kind of works best for me. But I'd love it if you guys commented to me, told me what you liked, what you didn't like about this, if this was helpful. Again, I wanted this to be kind of a beginner's guide to starting fire, and I'll do a few more of these kind of beginner's guides. Hopefully to, how we run the firebox and my favorite fire starters and other things of that nature. But I kind of wanted this to be that. So comment to me, we can have a discussion, or like and subscribe if this was, helpful and you want to see more content. And I appreciate you guys watching.